Hey guys, let's talk about tonight's episode of The Tomorrow People. And this episode, there was a lot going on. Now, first, let me just start with Jedekiah, okay? So, for a while now, I've been thinking there's something going on with Jedekiah. I mean, he's not just always pure villain. He sometimes has moments where you feel like he's protecting some of these people, where he's looking out for some of these tomorrow people. And I've been thinking, maybe he's just not all that bad. And then I started thinking, well, maybe he's almost like a double agent. He's been there this whole time and he's, really trying to unravel Ultra from the inside. And maybe there's a little bit more complexity to this whole situation. Because even at the beginning of this episode, he barges into Steven's home and he's got his guns drawn and he's like worried that something bad is going to happen to him. And, he's adamant that he didn't order the hit on Astrid and that it was, the founder of the Tomorrow People. And, there have been some other moments where you think, okay, maybe he's just not all that bad. But then there's parts of me that go, well, he did torture John. He's done all these horrible things to John. He did protect him. And sometimes you get the sense that he really does love John. But then, so it's almost like he's a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So there were moments again in this episode, like I said off the top, where he's, runs into this home and he looks like he's trying to protect Steven and his mom. And then, he's having that conversation with the twin on the table, and you're getting the sense that he has always never felt adequate to his brother because his brother was a tomorrow person and he wasn't given the gene to be a tomorrow person, and how his life could have been so different if he was, and so then you start thinking, okay, now what does all of this mean? And then of course Steven even calls him out and says, if you've been so fascinated in studying the DNA of a tomorrow person, why would you have cremated your brother? So of course, you're thinking he's either not dead or he knows where he's buried or he is. And at the end of this episode, we get really, really creepy Jedekiah. And he's basically talking to his brother who looks like he's in, I don't know, some glass case preserved only to be, I guess, stripped of his powers and then maybe given to his brother. I mean, what? Crazy. So we got a great flashback earlier on in the episode where Steven's reading Jedekiah's visions or mind or whatever to see what happened back in the day. And, the brothers had a good relationship and he was, warning his brother not to cross the founder and that something bad could happen. And in that moment again, I almost feel like they staged that death so that he could be taken away, so that it could, he could be protected. I don't know. My mind is just going a little too, trying to really figure out the twist before it comes. And, I don't know. All I know is Roger is fake dead. Steven has talked to him in his when he died. And now we find out that his brother Jedekiah actually has him. And even when he's talking to him, he's like, you would let me know if Steven was trying to reach out to you, wouldn't you? And it's like, he doesn't look like he can talk. I don't know what you're talking about. So some really interesting stuff going on with Jedekiah in this episode. I like the way he played it. You couldn't really tell what direction it was going to go in. Was he kind of protecting people? Was he lying? Like, is he really all bad? I think he really is all bad. And when he was going to basically kill one twin to give the powers to the other and go forward with it, I was like, oh man, Jedekiah is too far gone. And then at the end when he breaks down because the human twin was shot and killed, and you see him get all devastated and you're thinking, what is this ultimate plan here? Is he again ultimately going to take this study and then use it on himself one day? Crazy. Now, of course, my favorite part of this episode, again, is John, because John is awesome. And John, is now getting drunk topside and crashing at Steven's place and telling his mom that Steven is a double agent. I don't know if I missed the moment when Steven told John that his mom knew that he was a tomorrow person and that like, I think that he still doesn't know that the mom is a Tomorrow person, but I don't know. So, anyways, that happened. They had the conversation. She now knows that Ultra is a place where they're doing studies and they're actually trying to kill that race of people, and that Steven has been working as a double agent. So John, of course, cooks a lovely dinner for the family because he is just all kinds of awesome. And he has a really great conversation with the mom. And then to top it all off, he goes and sees Kara and basically tells her to kick rocks once again, which makes me ultimately very happy. So, he's like, wait a second, which I thought was actually kind of brilliant that she tried to do this, but it was obviously an epic fail. So she got the twins, because what we found out in this episode was that the twins were committing these crimes, and that one twin was actually, a Tomorrow person, and he was using his other twin as to teleport him in, and then he would kill the people, and then they would get $1 million for doing these hits. So, obviously Tara gets this brilliant idea. Let's use him to get into Ultra, and then we'll get him to kill Jedediah. And it doesn't work. They strangle Jedediah, but the agents ultimately end up killing the human twin. So, when John goes to see Tara, and she's like, Tara, sorry, Kara. He's like, what are we, assassins now? Like, you're ordering hits on Jedediah. And, he's like, I don't know what you think this is about, but this is not the route that we need to be taking. And she's like, well, I saw an opportunity and I wanted to take it. And he basically tells her, you're doing a horrible job and I'm calling you out now. So then she's like, I miss you and I want you to come back. And he's like, why? So that you can have a weapon in your arsenal? Like, no thanks. And he basically walks away and leaves her. So, 2 thumbs up for that decision there, John, because Kara, not so much. And, again, John has a conversation with Steven where, he kind of did defend Kara for making the decision not to surrender the guy, the actual teleporting twin. But, again, John just can see things from all sides, and that's what ultimately made him a really great leader. And I'm excited to see what he does now that he's no longer going to go back to the lair, and what he's going to do topside. Obviously not be a drunk and be silly, but what is he going to do? Who is he going to be around, and what is that going to bring for us? So another good episode, some funny scenes with Russell in this episode. I'm glad to see him kicking some butt in those fight scenes with the what ultimately ended up being I believe he was the teleporting twin. And they had a really great fight scene, which was awesome. And then afterwards, when he's talking to him and he's like, so I know killing is bad, but what do you guys do with all the money? And he's like, we have a house in Connecticut. It was like, wah, wah, wah. What is that? Because Russell was always trying to be like a hustler himself, right? Like going to pool games and like scamming people. And so, he's got that side of him, which is very interested in what happens when you can really scam people, but obviously not the murder side of it all. So another interesting episode. We got some good reveals with Roger, some good flashbacks. I thought the scene when Roger came back to see the wife was a little weird because the kids were like not too far away playing with some remote control car. He hadn't been there in 4 years, so if they looked up and looked over, wouldn't they have recognized their dad? I don't know. It would just seemed a little odd. Like, you would think that the kids would have been way, way out of sight. But they weren't. And then he just kind of got up and walked away again. So it was like a little weird. The conversation that Steven had with his mom at the end, when she's like, I'll let you go back to work. And I know that what you're doing is for a good cause. And, I'm just going to worry about you all the time. It was fine. But again, a little odd that they didn't have a deeper discussion as to how his mom has all these powers. When did she get them? What can she really do? How deep do her powers go? All that kind of good, juicy conversations. Because it's like, we kind of all want to know. And so Astrid and her dad are off on some bus somewhere. Where are those 1,000 questions that they have? So, a lot of little holes in some of the plot going on in this episode. But, I think that this season is still working out a lot of their kinks. But the other stuff was actually pretty good. The case of the week was pretty good. The Jedediah stuff was really good. The John stuff was really good. And of course, Kara sucking at being a leader. No surprise there. All right, guys, let me know what you thought of this week's episode of The Tomorrow People, and I will see you next week. I think we only have like two more episodes before it changes day to Monday and the 100 starts. We'll see how that goes. All right, bye, guys.